Good morning. Glad to join us this morning on Good Morning Anambra, the discussion segment. In case you're just joining us, my name is Ajuluchukwu Okabwe.
I was waiting for you to introduce me.
Yeah, I'm my co-anchor here, Chidima Oranwa. Let me do the introduction.
I guess you've forgotten my name. The Anambra, you're welcome to the show this morning. Like Ajulu said, my name is Chidima Oranwa.
Yeah, I won't be flying alone this morning, and then we'll be co-anchoring this because what we have to talk, it's not just something one person can handle. So that's why we are two here piloting the affairs on Good Morning Anambra this morning. And then we have a very, very interesting topic we want to be delving into, talking about, just recently we were celebrating Armed Forces Remembrance Day. That was on January the 15th, and then we want to merge it with what we have 60 years after Nigeria's first coup. Why do national divisions still persist? Yeah, Nigeria seems to be one contraption where you see people in a marriage and feeling that, oh, this marriage, people like say, this man, no, they give me the kind of vibes that I need. Probably I need to be elsewhere. And maybe the woman is saying the same thing and the man is saying the same thing. But here in the studio this morning, we have analysts that will be talking, a guest that will be looking into this, critical decision about the state of our nationhood, talking about Nigeria, and then the 60 years after its first coup, why do we have this persistence on, division, every person wanting to go his way? And then we have Barrister Chris Arukwe, a public affairs analyst, that will be looking into this matter and giving us an insight into what we have to discuss this morning. Good morning, Barrister. Happy New Year. I can say this is the first time we are seeing this year.
Good morning.
Barrister, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so talking about after 60 years, we are still talking about division. It still persists in Nigeria. Now, this is kind of personal to you, Barrister. To what extent did the first coup and, of course, the subsequent counter-coup embed ethnic tensions and distrust into the Nigerian political system? We're talking about exploring these cues, how they contributed to perceptions of sectionalism.
Yeah, permit me to just say that nothing has changed.
Okay.
And also permit me to read from what Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu said in 1966.
Go ahead.
These are the new colonialism. These are our enemies, our political profiteers, the swindlers, the men in high and low places who seek bribes and demand 10%, those who keep the country divided to stay in office, the tribalist, the nepotist, and those who falsely make Nigeria look important on the international stage. They have corrupted society and set our political calendar back by their words and deeds. These are the prime words of Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu, 1966. And you can see, since 1966, a whole lot of years gone by. The question is, what has changed? And what has improved? You will discover that nothing has really changed. And that we're
no improvement whatsoever.
We are worse off in terms of where we were in the golden days of trying to chase away the colonialists. Now we are here. The first coup was touted to correct certain imbalances, misgovernance and all that. The subsequent one was a counter coup to seeking revenge somewhat, and a whole lot of bloodshed was made. And that coup was tagged an ethnic coup, and that has implanted a feeling that your ethnicity, where you come from, your bloodline is more important than the national goal or the national cohesion. And that plant, or the seed thereof, have continued to grow into an oak and has branched off and produced an ending result that is unpleasant to growth and development. That coup, series of coups, were actually staged by friends, by people you can call people who are from certain geographical extraction. And it was tagged an Igbo coup, the second one. Whether the majority were actually Igbos or not, or whether the actual movers of a coup were actually Igbos, have not been held to rest. It is also a thing of debate whether it was actually an Igbo coup or not. And thereafter, that seed has all been there, that it was an Igbo coup that produced the present result we have today. The military is ethnicized, the police is ethnicized, the Navy, all the military and institutions are ethnicized. And it has grown that your ethnicity can drive you up to the ladder. Your ethnicity can give you an advantage, economic advantage. So, and that spirit of incohesiveness have now driven the map to where we are today. That Nigeria has become a patchword, a word for an agglomeration of people without instinctual values, without things that bind us as a nation state, as a country, as one undivided loyalty. So what we have today is just a patchwork, geographical entity, territory without love and passion.
You said that's territory without love and passion, and then we call ourselves Nigerians when we don't even believe in that word, Nigeria. Now, talking about the military era and then the rest of it all, we've had uninterrupted democracy since 1999 to date, and we believe that the military and their ways of doing things probably doesn't really seem, globally accepted. But now, talking about making this Nigeria a state living in harmony with a sense of direction, we were thinking that the best way to get that fashioned out would be in a democratic system of government. But we seem not to have touched that area of trying to harmonize the indifferences in these different parts of these countries to get us on the same boat and on the same direction. Do you think that democracy is actually not living up to the dividends of giving us a direct move? Or do we actually believe that this contraption called Nigeria is not sustainable?
These are strong words. You know, my first catch was nothing has changed. And I actually believe that nothing has changed. It's just the names.
From the democratic to the military era, or the military era to the democratic era?
The whole thing is the same thing. Whether you wear khaki or you wear an agbada, the seed, the major ingredients in you, your DNA, your makeup, your conception, your cultural attitude is what matters actually. We need a philosopher king. We need somebody who will not think along tribal lines or ethnic lines, where I come and who are my friends. We need somebody who can say, this is Nigeria, and we want to make it to work. Have we found it since 1999? If we think that the military incursions were an error, we can do away with that thinking and begin to do our analysis from 1999. From 1999, has it become, from 1991, not even 1999, I think it's 1991. If you think about it, 1979 to date, has it really been better? Has this country been governed better in the pre-era military coup? There was semblance of order during the Republican time when we have Nnamdi Azikiwe as the President General, and then the Premier and all those other people. There seemed to be a semblance of order, good governance, and all that. And in fact, the little achievements this country still has came from that period of time and all that. A lot of merit, things were based on merit, things were not actually based on where you come from or where you had come from and all that. So, but today, from the civilian time to the present, Chinua Achebe wrote a book that was a country. He actually felt that there's no country and that the country is virtually irredeemable. And that has led to a brand of secession. A lot of people, a lot of ethnic groups, 370, 250 some say, are actually agitating. Let us have our own kingdom. Let us have our own country. Let us have a place we can call our own and govern ourselves with our own tools and resources. That has also led to resource control and all that, all those derivatives. Those things they try to do are mere patchworks, because the central theme is, has our procedure and thinking changed? And that's the slogan. Nothing has changed. The way we think, has it changed? It hasn't changed. Where we now have in this present era of a Tinubu administration, has it gotten worse? Has federal character been taken into consideration in doing things? Has merit been taken care of? Has appointment been made in line with the Constitution or merit? These things have not been done in that way.
Okay, so going by your word, nothing has changed. Let's look at federalism, restructuring, and cohesion. Now, I know that if things will change in this country, we have to heed to the cry of the people when we are, a lot of people have been crying for restructuring, right? Now, it has been on so many people's mouth in so many forums, debate on restructuring. But the question I want to ask you now, why has Nigeria struggled to achieve and sustain a meaningful federal system that respects national autonomy and, of course, equity?
Yeah, the earlier seed sown that my tribe, my ethnic configuration, my religion holds us back in such a manner that I first think that I have arrived, then my brothers should also get into the ship before others come into the ship. You can see it actually graphically explained and exhibited by this present administration. That where you look at the key appointments in the country of so much diversity, population, and disparities, you find out that one ethnic group is dominating the face of Nigeria, the face of the territory called Nigeria. I mean, when there's dominance, where there's dominance by a group over the others, they say the greater includes the lesser. You know, when you now put yourself in a violent manner, in a manner that cancels out the constitution of the land, because the constitution makes provision for national cohesion. And how did he make it? He created a section in the constitution by saying all appointments shall bear a semblance to national character. What is national character? Diversity and inclusivity. That is, the minorities will be included in decision making. Minorities will be included in appointments, in resource control, in sharing of amenities and development. It shall be even and equitable. These are the first prime fundamental objectives of the constitutions that we have all had. But those things are thrown overboard. They have not been implemented in any manner to show that this is a country made up of very heterogenic complexion, where we are saying we have 370 ethnic blocks, people who are capable of running their countries, people who are capable of coming together and becoming a country out of the country called Nigeria. 370. Some say 250. But actual other sources, data, persist that Nigeria has 370 ethnic minorities. So it's a plural country. So that if you use simplistic manner to share the resources of the country, and you now leave some people outside the web, it's going to provide a festering fault line that will bring agitation, bring violence, bring disruptions to the system. And that's why we have hydra-headed violence across the board. There's poverty because the resources are not shared equitably. The minorities or those who were vanquished during the war, who are also labeled breakaway, who are labeled people who are incapable of ruling this country, people who are called all names. They don't have a seat at the table. it has continued to produce rippling effect that has refused to go away. Is it a country where we are tagged the poverty capital of the world, where decisions are made that people do not know, where their presidents have traveled and all that? It is a system where you kind of think that Nigeria is an autopilot. Occasionally you see some semblance of order, some semblance of imagination that somebody is governing the country. Because he's governing the country with a plurality of his friends, a plurality of his ethnic bloc. It's a situation where you can speak the ethnic dialogue and everybody in that institution understands what you're talking about. I've been to a federal office, NDIC for example, sometime in the 80s, and a particular language, an Hausa language was like, they were talking in Hausa language, the floor. And you begin to see that there was dominance. Because if there weren't dominance, the English version of our own lingua franca would be spoken, at least the broken English language would have been used in that kind of environment.
Well, talking about language, it's also bad enough that sometimes when you enter an office like that and you meet your own brother, an Igbo brother or sister, and you speak your language, the person will tell you to speak the lingua franca.
Yes, it is the cultural identity. If it is in competition, it is not the ideal thing. The ideal thing is language is for communication. I do not deride my people because they speak English. English is a matter of communication. But when you use this form, that communication, as a form of ethnic identity, that is when it gets wrong. The Igbo man does not want to pride himself as an Igbo man. He believes in his merit. He believes he's mastered the language. He believes he's acculturated. He believes he's traveled all over the globe. He's civilized. He's not ethnicized.
Isn't that one of our problems?
So it's not a minus.
As an ethnic group?
It's not a minus. Binding together as an ethnic bloc, what has it gained? What has it done for us? It is not. It is actually the grain of the problem of Nigeria. Ethnicism. It is the problem of Nigeria. Because if it was not, why would a particular person be made a minister? When you check his curricula vitae, why would this man qualify ordinarily to be a minister? If you ask the question, answer it. And then you now discover that ethnicity is one of the branded problems of Nigeria. It's one of the key factors. Ethnicity and religion. Christian-Muslim divide has put the country at polar regions that binding is actually an impossibility. That American congressman is talking about divide the country in a manner to safeguard the Christian population, which is put at 50-50 now, because actual statistics is saying that we have equal number of Muslims and Christians, but that is debatable. But that's not even the issue. The issue is that the international world is beginning to see that Nigeria is unworkable, because what pulls us apart are greater than what tries to pull us, like those who study physics, the forces that try to pull you apart and the forces that try to pull you into the nucleus, stuff like that. So what pulls Nigerians apart is greater than what pulls us in. Nationalism, you can find segments of nationalism when Nigeria is playing a football match against a particular country, and Nigeria is probably playing well, subject to playing well. If they're not playing well, they say it's an Igbo man who has taken the wrong steps and yielded the floor for an opponent to score. You can see those kind of divide and discussions going on the internet.
Thank you so much, Barrister Chris. Now, talking about the split, talking about why do national divisions persist. As we stand now, we know the Soviet Union were an amalgamation of over 30 nations, but they've now broken. And part of that breakup, we have Ukraine and Russia. They are at war. Sudan used to be one unified country. Now we have South Sudan and the North and the other Sudan, they are at war. We have some of these things in other parts of the Middle East and the rest of it all. India and Pakistan used to be one country. But there are tensions between the borders and even the Kashmir region. So now, if we tend to go our separate ways, are we not still going to be having this regional conflict like other countries that have broken away are having currently? That's one question. And now, talking about we now operating a democratic system of government, if we want to succeed, like all these nations want to, parts, you talked about Nigeria having 250, 370 ethnic minorities. But we can definitely have 250 countries come out of Nigeria. So where are we going to be taking these national divisions? As we speak now, it's only the IPOP that seems to be championing the secession. The Arewa are not championing it as much as the Odua are championing. So it seems as if it's only one part that wants a breakup, while the other part still wants to remain, other parts still want to remain intact and reap the benefits of this country called Nigeria.
Well, let me tell you something. Okay. Some of your assumptions are actually very presumptuous. One is that you painted a record of where the breakups or the carve-ups didn't work or didn't seem to work. But you haven't really taken the picture of where the breakup energized the internal resourcefulness of the people and produced gigantic results and all that. Korea, the Koreas, you want to use the word Korea, the South and the North, is South Korea not an example of a giant stride of its people? Is India and Pakistan, are they on the same pedestal? India has grown into a world-class manufacturing hub in the world, medical tourism and all the rest of it. It's worked. You check out the Nordic countries, they used to be a small bloc, but in Norway, Sweden and all those, they were just a country, an enclave before, but they moved out apart and all that. There are countries in the world where breakups, secessions have produced gigantic, marvelous results. You can't take it away from the people. Where there is nationalism, there will be growth. America was built on nationalist instincts. From the drawing up of their constitutions or First Amendment or whatever they call it, till date, America has been built on nationalism. The beauty is found in their flag, the love of their flag, the love of their symbol, the love of their totems, their institutions, their clubs, their everything is built on the premise of love for our country. What is lacking in Nigeria is the intro-eccentric. Everybody knows that when you belong to the dominant ethnic group, you're going to be a giant. You're going to be wealthy, whether you went to school or not, whether you had a past degree instead of a first class.
Does that solve the problem?
Marginalization is not the marginalization is not the issue. It is profiling that is the issue. If you're marginalized, if your turn hasn't come, just like the Igbos,
okay.
Our turn has never come, and we feel genuinely marginalized as a result of the fallbacks of the war, which were attempted to secede, to move away from the country, where our people were being exterminated and subjected to pogrom and genocide. It was a war of survival. It wasn't really a way or a war that was built on the premise of we want to be our country. It was a kind of, we were fighting to get away from slaughter, genocide, and pogrom. So I do not think that if we do not reconstruct the country, if we do not restructure the country into simple, understandable plebiscites, we can make a move. That was a country. Chinua Achebe was talking about a country in a past participle sense, in a country that has ended, a country that is no longer living, a country that is dead. How do we resurrect, do a renaissance, do a reconstruction? Most of the problem could be found in the constitution that they have made for us. Because you cannot make a constitution and transfer all the powers to the center, make one region a permanent dominant force over the others, mention the religion, introduce a religion, Islam, into a national constitution, and you think it would work. There are many things that are wrong with our constitution. Powers that should be regionalized, powers that should go to the states.
Yeah. Now,
that
Barrister Chris.
We can come into that later. But what we're saying is that what is wrong with us is actually the lack of cohesion, the lack of love for a nation state, where ethnicity and religious divide has pulled apart the forces that should bind us towards the center.
Okay, let's also bring it down to the electoral process. By 2027, we'll be electing a new president. And like some people said, and you just mentioned here that our time has never come, and we don't know whether our time is coming next year, right? Okay, now, when we talk about all this, the consequences of perceived bias and, of course, the ineffectiveness, let's look at some of the weak national bodies or institutions we have, like the electoral bodies, the judiciary, and, of course, the security agencies, how they affected trust in Nigerian state and unity, like the trust Nigerians have in them, how it has affected the unity, and, of course, this division that we are talking about.
Yes. Actually, if you read up, you find out the factors that have led to this non-cohesion. Because cohesion is a word that connects economic, social, cultural things. If this cohesion or factors that go for cohesion are not around, a country can virtually not exist. We are not existing because the factors that bind us are less a strength than the factors that divide us. The factors that divide us are greater in potency and will be dwindling. A country that does not have oversight, great oversight, why do we have INEC? Why do we have the police? Why do we have all these later created agencies like ICPC, EFCC, and all that, and the fraud unit of all the police forces? They are to conduct regular oversight over governing bodies, the governors, the states, the legislature, and all that. But have they lived up to expectation in such a way that there's sufficient deterrence, sufficient workload that is not dictated by ethnic consideration, bribery, and corruption? Are people being charged evenly? Are these forces of states being deployed evenly? Such a way you can say that enough of this. The man from the north did the same thing. He went to prison. The man in the south did it and he went to prison. If you don't show people such results, people will doubt you. There will be mistrust, and that mistrust will lead to deeper unhealing processes. And that is why we are here. Everybody who looks glossily around Nigeria, you can't find a pattern of proficiency, a pattern of consistency in the application of the rules. If you go to the court, that's the worst nightmare you will have. I'm a lawyer. But the point is that have justice, have jurisprudence been applied in such a manner that you can say that this judgment is ethical, reasonable, intelligent, and intellectual, that it follows the rule, because judgments or court processes are mere things that follow precedence, standard decisis. You're obliged to follow the higher court. A lower court is obliged to follow the decision in the same matter of a higher court. Just like that, it goes like that. And the Supreme Court is there to create what actually amounts to the law. Because the Supreme Court will say it is wrong to have a state called Abuja, called the Federal Capital Territory. That's what they ruled. And that's the law. And people are beginning to apply it, beginning to see the FCT as a state in the land. But that was not the intendment of the legislature, the people who drafted the law. They believe that it's just a municipality that will handle the affairs of all the people who come into the capital territory to reside and to do business. What is being turned into another state for regional purposes, for population purposes, and all that and all that. The end game is to corrupt the system the more. And that is why we're here. If judiciary, if the courts have played the role they ought to play, establish stringent, unbiased precedents that you cannot jump a party, jump from APC to PDP, or vice versa, while you're a House member, a member of representative, a senator, and still be in that position. That is what the law prescribed.
Okay.
And but they have turned it topsy-turvy. They've turned it up and down in many instances.
All right.
But if they has insisted that that's the law, you won't see people, you won't see the gerrymandering in River State, you won't see all the ugly things that are happening.
All right, Barrister, thank you so much for your submission so far. So right now we are going for a short break. We'll be right back. Just stay with us.
We're back. Join us. We are still here in the studio with our guest, Barrister Chris Arukwe. 60 years after Nigeria's first coup, why do national divisions persist? That's the topic we are delving into and trying to rip it apart in order to have a conclusion on that. Now, Barrister, let me come to you now. We're talking about this issue. You talked about the Constitution, and then we are saying the best way to attack a nation and have a sense of direction would have been the Constitution. But we had successive National Assembly from 1999 till date. Nothing seems to have been done about the Constitution. Nobody is addressing the issue of a constitutional review and then implementing it. Every president comes in and swears to this Constitution that you said is lopsided and is not giving us that sense of nationality. When are we going to have this constitutional review? As a barrister, what are the milestones that we need as an impediment that we need to actually, the process we need to undergo in order to have it? Is it that the politicians are enjoying the lopsidedness of it to the detriment of Nigerians?
Yes. If you listened deeply, you will have heard what Cardinal Zogu said in 1966. He said, there was a portion of a paragraph where he said, some people like the way it is because it profits them. That's the slogan.
Yeah.
From a lot of people, this present APC government.
So from 1999, nobody has seen anything wrong with the Constitution. The National Assembly we've had, the Senate, nobody. Both states, House of Assemblies.
I was driving to the point you are making.
Go ahead.
You will recall that we had series of constituent assembly in the past from 1979. There was one in 79 or 91. Then the one Jonathan held that huge sums of money were expended, and we thought that was going to be a miracle thing. The confab report was produced, and Jonathan was to deal with it, but he thought he was coming back on his second mission. He failed to come, and Buhari came, and when he was adverted to it, he said that document is not worth his time. It's not what he should bother himself with. It's better left with those who wrote it. And that's where we are here today. The present makeups of the assemblies, call it the National Assembly, call it the state assemblies, by themselves are part of the problem. They're part of the corruption. They do not have the stamina, the mental stamina, the testosterone to run a constitutional review, not an amendment what we have, we don't require an amendment. We want a whole new constitution. And it requires not the strength of the present Senate or House of Representatives, because they are part of the problem. Because the constitution itself is made up of anomalies, where you now have states in Nigeria. Kano State, for example, is made up of 57 local governments, which is the totality of, nearly the totality of the local governments you can find in the southeast. And each local government is a revenue deriving head. And in that same makeup, that is the number of, that strength is the number of House of Reps you will have. It is only the Senate that is spread thin by each state. And you find out that there's an ethnic or a regional bloc already. It's a majority of the Senate. It's a majority, not in the Senate, in the House of Reps. These people who will vote, because it has to be a combined plenary to pass a law, so to say. The two houses must sit together and vote and all that. So you find out that you cannot pass any legitimate law without the overwhelming majority of the northern people from the north. So the Constitution is a contraption that was drafted by the leaders who came mostly from the northern part of the country. And they introduced results that are inconsistent with good governance, because there's dominance in every part of that constitution over and above the rest of Nigerians. So you cannot, those kind of people who are produced by the same constitution cannot sit down over the mess that was created in their favor. So we need a confab, a unilaterally constituted body that will be governed by their own rules.
We've had a confab before, but at the
yes,
end of the
we
day,
had. I'm saying that the only way it can be driven is through a confab. That the first one or the third one failed doesn't mean that we will not have a solution. Dust even the old one. Let us see the results they produced. Get a committee to work on what they produced. A balanced committee. They will look at it, modify it, upgrade it, and then push it over. And that becomes our new constitution that will remove all things that are not necessary in the constitution, give powers to the state, give powers to the local government, drive a simple economy that will work for the people. That is what is going to happen. But if it doesn't happen, we'll be running around the streets, running around, providing ourselves with personal resources and all that. A lot of money was voted for constitutional amendment by the last Senate, headed by Kweremadu. A lot of money. He took his own, went away, and that ended. You will remember there were constitutional meetings held all over. It was held in Oko, hotel in Oko and all that. Money, it was held in Enugu. Money was just, bags of money were just shared, and it was just a jamboree.
I feel that the confab and the writing of the constitution might never happen very soon, because like you rightly stated here, these politicians are actually benefiting from it, and it seems like Nigerians have not learned anything, any lesson from the military rule. Now, moving forward right now, let's see if there are roles like education, the media, cultural exchanges, and of course, the national service can play in the healing of the historical fault lines, of course, and promoting unity in Nigeria, because we are still very ill now. We need to heal.
Yeah, I like what you said. We are ill, and we need the healing, not just what they say, the balm. When somebody has something, you put up a balm that tries to soothe the pain without actually going to the cause of the problem. We need surgery to remove the cancerous parts and all that, not just painkillers and analgesics. So the thing is deep, and it runs not just what NYSC will solve, not what national orientation will solve. We need a surgical intervention, because we must uproot the illness from its very deep, deep-seated source. And what is that source? The source is that we do not believe in equality. We do not believe in the love of the nation. We believe in the love of our ethnic group. We believe in the love of our religious group. Even in this state, there's a war of parity between the Catholics and the Anglicans. And in voting patterns, you see this going on this way. But the major forces of money have seemed to cancel all those smaller considerations in the election of officers in this state and all that, and beyond. So what we're saying is that we need a surgical intervention. If we do not have a constitution that creates equality between the up and the down, between the east and the west and the north, we will never get it right. If we do not have institutions that are based on merit, institutions that are manned by people who can say, this is wrong, it doesn't matter whether it is my brother from my ethnic extraction. If we do not have judiciary that can stand on its own, if we do not even have institutions like the university system have been weakened by AUC and all that. If we don't have very strong institutions that man our university, you can just see that our universities are just consulting units of learning. The lecturers come to class. When they see that the children are not interested, they just help them to be uninterested the more, set exams and they copy and all that, and award marks as pay as you go and all that. These are the systems, and all these things, and they're happening because there are absent of the implementing force. The people who should say this is wrong are not saying that this is wrong. Where you can know and go to court with your connection alone, you can get the judgment type, the type of judgment you want. It is wrong. No. Even the best of lawyers should not know the outcome of a particular case before a judge. You can only guess that this is the principle and that these things happen in this other place and the judges rule that it is this way. You wait for the outcome. But here, lawyers actually know what is going to be the outcome of a judicial process, because a lot of things have happened between the bar and the bench. A lot of water has passed under the bridge. Things like this. A judgment should be hilarious. A judgment should elicit joy. A judgment that is good should emanate from the reasonableness of the common man on the street. He understands that this judgment merits their compassion, merits their enthusiasm. But when the judgment between Peter Obi and the rest of it, between Tinubu, was passed, it was like a gloom in the land. Everybody felt there was something missing. Everybody felt a particular type of unhappiness, because that judgment did not connect with the wishes of the people.
Okay, now we're talking 60 years after Nigeria's first coup. We don't know if it will take another 60 years before we begin to talk about the solutions to what we are actually going through. When the government seems to have failed us, as we wrap up, my last question now, what do you think the people that are actually feeling the brunt of this heel lopsided arrangement, what should they do? The citizens. Yeah, the citizens.
Yes, you know, the Greek anatomy people, they say that they have the tribesman, the citizen, and
the Democrats.
The Democrats and all that, the three types of people. So if the citizens keep quiet, the country is dead. Those people, the citizens, are people who have patriotism, who do not link their faith to where they come from. If the masses, these people will call the masses, which actually is the rest of us, the people who are ordinarily minded, people who are not concerned about who rules them, but they are concerned with reasonableness. They are concerned with the empathies of their governors. They are concerned with the result the governors produced. They are concerned that the healthcare is working. They are concerned with the school systems are producing results that you can see and appreciate. They are concerning that the recruitment process is based on merit, not who is connected to the center or connected to the governors. These are considerations how reasonable men act or react. Then you tell me the role of the citizen. The role of the citizen is to think like the citizens, to say no to an unjust law, to coalesce, to come together and say what is wrong, and what is untruthful, it remains untruthful. To stay and stage a vehement no. To stay home for a day. I remember when the Igbos, Ojukwu, gathered our people, come back home. Particularly, it was termed a New Year festival for the Igbos. And the Igbos left Lagos. Lagos was crumbled. For 3 days, Lagos was crumbled. Imagine all of us staying home for 2 days, vehemently and legitimately, staying home for 3 days. This country will go to the knees. Imagine the strikes that have worked. Imagine the amount of money the government spends so that these strikes don't go on. The last man standing is the citizen. If the citizens believe that it's all commerce game, we'll be in this quagmire for folds of years to come, for centuries to come, because the center, how it is now, status quo, makes a lot of people happy. They can buy their way to the Senate. They can buy their sons. Umahi is bringing his son for the chairmanship of Afikpo local government. Wike is bringing his son for House of Reps in the River State. And the rest of them, somebody bought a space for his wife at the Court of Appeal. And some women, some other persons, 2 of our daughters and Federal High Court and all that. So you begin to see it's government by paternity. If you don't have somebody who's out there connected, you will never have a merit. If citizens keep quiet, if citizens believe that this status quo is the way to go, the country will keep going the way it is. So if the citizens do not believe that saying no is a more potent force that all the revolutionary forces can provide, that is where to begin. The citizens have to be educated. Educated is not just a university education. Education is about your civic right, your civic responsibility to say no to injustice. If we don't say no to these things that are irregular, it will continue to go in a circle and will be consumed by it.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister. I feel that you've made your points, and it's left for us, the citizens, to all speak out. But I don't know when we're going to come together, the youth of this country, from the major, in fact, from all the ethnic groups, because I remember there was a time something like this was organized. You want to come out to protest and do, and talk to the government that we do not like the way, the state of things in this nation. But then at the end of the day, it didn't happen. We remember what happened at the NSAS protest and all that. But then again, we keep trying, because we're not just going to put our hands together and wait for God to come down from heaven and solve our problem for us. We keep trying as citizens, hoping that, if we do our own, it will now pressure the people at the seat of power to do the necessary and the important things. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. We've talked about it. 60 years after Nigeria's first coup, we are still asking which way Nigeria. But then, like we said, like it has been discussed, like the barrister here has said, the onus is on us Nigerians. If you actually want to get this country working, forget about your your governors that are junketing from one political party to the other. That's their own selfish interest they are portraying and pursuing. All we need to do is unite and then have a unified voice to speak against the ills of this country. Well, God bless Nigeria, and we believe that someday we will get there. Well, we want to thank you, Barrister, immensely for being here. And up next, we have Catch the Bus. Don't go anywhere, where we'll talk about things happening all around us, but on a much more lighter and lesser serious note. Don't go anywhere. The fun still continues on Good Morning Anambra.